Here's something that President Trump made public just yesterday with the Truth Social post that he put up for the entire world to see. And he talked about gold, and he talked about the fact that there will be no tariffs on gold. He put up the Truth Social post. And folks, think about it. When you think of Trump, right, Donald Trump, you think of gold. It's almost synonymous. It's his hotels, it's his penthouse, it's all of the things that he's put together. It's almost synonymous with gold itself. And so the fact that he's tying all of these new economic programs to no tariffs on gold and thought it was important enough to raise to the level of public awareness is something that we should all be focusing on. And so in order to do so, I said, we got to get Alex Abkarian on from Allegiance Gold to walk us through all of this. Alex, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you, Jack?
I'm doing great. So, Alex, what does it mean? What does it mean when President Trump says that there will be no tariffs on gold? How does this affect the market, and why is he excluding this precious metal?
Well, when you think about President Trump, as you mentioned, let's reference the number of gold scenarios that he utilized, from the Golden Age, the Golden Dome, the gold standard science, to the gold decor that he has in his office. He even appointed a Treasury Secretary that was also labeled as a gold bug, especially when he was managing the Soros Fund. So coming back to your question, the media played it off that this was a misinformation. As a matter of fact, the way I think about President Trump, I think this was a deliberate strategic move. And here's why. 3 takeaways that I learned, and I studied this. Number one, he wanted to see the market reaction, because Thursday is when the news broke, right? 39% tariff on gold imported from Switzerland, 1 kilo bar and 100 ounces. Nothing occurred on Friday. There was a little bit of a signaling, but in the last 3 days, the media was mute. And then all of a sudden, President Trump and on his Truth Social tweeted his actual position. Now, why is this important? We got to understand the backdrop of this. In the last 3 years, we've seen an influx of gold imports from Switzerland. Once you understand the numbers, you understand the reasoning behind this strategic chess positioning. In 2023, we've imported about 6.1 billion. 2024, double that, about 11 billion. During the first 6 months of the year, we've imported about 39.2 billion Swiss franc, almost 4 times that. And obviously, Switzerland is one of the valves of the gold refineries. So half of the imports came from Switzerland. So the first reaction that President Trump was looking, in my opinion, is to understand where is the pressure points, okay? So that's very much of a valuable intel. The second thing was to signal both to allies and to our adversaries. I think last time on the show, we talked about the BRICS nation. We talked about how central banks have been de-dollarizing and minimizing the utilization of dollar as an alternative and going into gold. So what President Trump basically said in a very simple way is that, look, we're watching the gold game that you're playing, and you're not going to have it easy. You're not going to have this tariff-free pass. And speaking about tariff, I mean, look at earlier this week, we got this brilliant reverse tariff on the 2 largest chip makers, NVIDIA and AMD. So the way I think about this is the messaging and the signaling. Now, to Switzerland, we basically said, hold on a second. We know that you're the largest refiner, but make no mistake, at some point we might have to go back to the negotiating table. And domestically, his message was very clear. I'm not anti-gold, okay? But I may use it as a bargaining chip at some point. So in a nutshell, what does this mean? When the US, the largest, the most important country in the world, talks about gold, the world pays attention. And what we're seeing is that overall, demand is gradually growing. Yes, gold went up all the way up to 3,500 overnight on Thursday night, and now it leveled off. So in a nutshell, the 3 takeaways is this is not a surprise. This is not labeled misinformation. This is strategic positioning, and we've seen President Trump utilize that over and over specifically in his second term.
So, taking a look at that, and of course, we've seen the rise of precious metals throughout the entire scope of what President Trump has accomplished since coming back to office in January. How does China play into all of this?
Okay. Well, China obviously is leading the BRICS nation. If we go back 5 years, they used to have about $1.3 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. Gradually, they've been dropping that to right now it's about 780 billion. What have they been doing? Alternatively, they've been buying more gold. But you have to understand the psyche of the BRICS nation and specifically China. China is the world #1 gold producer and yet importer. Russia is the second largest gold producer. Their frustration is, well, we're the ones who are producing this. Why should we let the West, the COMEX market, which the future contracts brings in, it's the largest future gold contract, about 500 billion. Why should we let the West control the price discovery when we are the producers? So here's what China's doing in the background. Strategically, we just delayed another tariff to November 9th. We're still doing a lot of the negotiations, and President Trump alluded that there's been some progress. So in the background, China's action is much louder than what they're saying. Gold is increasing, U.S. Treasury dependency is dropping. And that's a problem for us down the line because they also have their Shanghai exchange. Here in the U.S., we have the COMEX. The second one is the London bullion market. But gold is migrating from west to east. Their intention is not only do we want to control the product, but we also want to be the players that set the price as opposed to depending on the U.S.
And that's just like the CCP all over. They don't want to just run the game. They want to run the entire house. You know, and what do you say to people then who say, well, you know, I hear you, but I'll wait for gold to go down before I get involved?
Oh, I've been hearing that for the past 5 years. We saw what occurred in 2020. When gold hit 2000 in August 2020, a lot of people said, oh, this is the all-time high. Look, gold is a strategic asset. It's an actual way of wealth. You're not looking at this to trade on a day in, day out. Year to date, the dollar is down about 10%. Gold is up 25%. You have to understand how gold performed during President Trump's first term. It improved by about 53%. The dollar's dropped. Right now, we're in a fight with the Federal Reserve. We have an ability to add a new governor, and we're in discussions to potentially lower the interest rates. So all roads are leading to gold. Gold is not only about this protective asset, that it's a hedge against inflation. It's no longer just acting that. Gold is not even acting as a safe haven asset because economically we don't have any major setbacks. So for folks that are considering by looking at their statement and measuring their wealth only in terms of dollars, they're missing out. Gold is a great diversifier against economic uncertainties, against anything to do with the currency and the market in general. So don't think about gold as this archaic way of an asset that is not doing anything. Think about how can I position myself similar to central banks? Why is it that President Trump is giving you the hint? Why is he utilizing the word gold and gold and gold and gold and every other scenario that he has?
The golden age, right? The golden age.